Hi, my name is Neal Thomason, Executive Director of the Connecticut Film and TV Conference 2024. I want to thank you for taking the time to learn more about the film and television industry here in Connecticut and the region. But before we get to our panel, I want to thank our host, Goodwin University, for providing a clean and safe space. This event was brought to you by the Connecticut Film and TV Alliance in partnership with Joe Young Entertainment. Please check out our sponsors, Chair 10, Firesight Films, Actors Gym, Flickvana, Connecticut Film Office, Shadow Veil Productions, Angel Eyes Productions, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, JT Design, 48 Hour Film Fest, Yukon Digital Media and Design, Connecticut River Valley Chamber of Commerce, IATSE Local 52, Camera Bar, Chamber Insurance Trust, Soundtrack, Utility Communication, and Clock Tower Tax Credits. Thanks again to our sponsors. Without them, this event would not be possible. So now, please enjoy the union panel.
My name is Bob Dio. I'm a co-founder and co-chair of the Connecticut Film and TV Alliance. And I am so proud of all of us here, for you folks coming, and for the Alliance and our great producers, Alessandro Andreoli and Neal Thomason, for helping us, or actually putting this together. We're just so grateful that this has happened. Hopefully this will be the first of many yearly conferences that we'll have here, because our goal in Connecticut is to make Connecticut one of the centers for film production again. We've been known as a flyover state for too long. We're working very closely with our legislatures to see if we can do more with the tax credits to increase production in Connecticut. And thanks to our PGA producer, who's back there right now, Jonathan. Stand up, Jonathan. Jonathan Black, who is currently in the middle of producing major film in Danbury right now, and finished producing Summer House this past summer. Kind of a nice summer in summer, you know it? Okay.
I have to work tomorrow.
And he has to work out. We pulled him off the set, actually. And we hope to have more. I think there's maybe another film coming in the early spring. Plus, there are a lot of independent productions that are happening now. Connecticut's starting to be recognized. And it's starting to be recognized, too, by our union people here. And first of all, I'd like to introduce you to my right is Jessica Maher, Executive Director of SAG AFTRA of New England. Andrea Lyman is the president of SAG AFTRA New England. Liz Eng down there, raise your hand. Liz is the secretary of SAG AFTRA. And a special thanks to, and Nick, forgive me, I'm probably, oh, here you are. Nick Fondulis, correct. Nick Fondulis came in from New York's SAG AFTRA. He's an actor, and he's also on the board of SAG AFTRA New York. So we've got both locals represented here today. And we also, not just talking about the talent side of things, we want to talk about crew and crew things too. And absolutely, with that, we have the Vice President of IATSE Local 52, Thomas Woods, here as well. So unfortunately, these panels are going to have to be somewhat quick because they're backed up against other panels. So I'm going to address questions and then some quick Q&A maybe with audience members. We do have a mic that we can send out to anybody who wants to ask a question. But the first thing I'd like to do is throw a question to, if I can find my paperwork here quickly. Yes, Andrea. We're going to start with Andrea. Andrea, the biggest question our non-union actors ask me often is, how does one become a SAG AFTRA union member?
Okay. There are several ways to become a SAG AFTRA union member. One of them is to get a role in a speaking role in a SAG AFTRA film that is moderate, low budget, all the way up to the top. Or if you get a job in broadcasting in a union broadcasting shop, or role of the singer, dancer, any of those in a major film or moderate budget and above. The other way is if you do background work in a union film and you are given a union voucher. Sometimes people call it a waiver. Sometimes people call it Taft-Hartley. Yeah, anyone, you get 3 of those, and then you can be eligible to join the union. The thing you want to think about when you are thinking of joining the union is, am I ready? So if you've been doing a lot of principal roles and you have pretty good resume and you think, I'm ready to compete with everyone, then yeah, that would be a time to join. Another would be, maybe you want to just concentrate on doing background work, but you want to get paid more for it, because we do get paid more for doing the background work, and we get all kinds of perks and things like that. So if that's what you want to do, then yeah, join the union. What you don't want to do is join and you wanted to get principal work, but you weren't quite ready yet, and then you put yourself into the deep end before you had actually learned how to float. So that's my analogy of that. So you want to be ready, and as soon as you're ready, then sure. And there's also the thing where maybe you weren't really ready to join the union, but they happen to be making the movie that is you. And they're making a skating movie, and by the way, you skate, and so then you get a principal role, and there you're off from there. Because that happens sometimes, that there's a movie that fits your talents, and they're looking for you, so you get a principal role in that, and then from there get the foot in for a lot of other roles. So that definitely, same thing is if you're college age and or you look college age and they're doing all these young people movies, well then yeah, you might get a lot of work.
I was going to ask Jessica to expand a little bit more on the waivers. Is there any more information on the waivers that we should talk about here? Because I do get a lot of actors asking me about, oh, I got one waiver too. Can I, if I do one waiver on one movie, but they don't call me back, but I get another waiver on another movie, do they have to be all together?
No. So the background work, when it counts towards your eligibility, it's 3 days of background work under a SAG AFTRA contract. Not every project has background coverage, so you want to make sure first that the SAG AFTRA contract covers background actors for that picture. And those 3 days don't have to be consecutive. They don't have to be on the same project. They don't have to be in the same year. It's in your lifetime. Once you become eligible, your eligibility never goes away. So you can decide to become a member then, or you can wait. And as Andrea said, it's really a personal decision. You decide when is best for you to do that. Basically, a production has a responsibility to cover a certain number of background actors on a particular job under union contract. If they cannot find those roles within our current membership, then they have the ability to hire non-union performers under those SAG-AFTRA jobs. So you would be covered under the contract, paid the minimum rates. As Andrea said, you get all the bumps, get all the benefits of working under our contracts, and that makes you eligible.
Boy, she knows her stuff. Jessica, here's another follow-up for you. I know we recently came out of a very long strike that has left the film industry in the unemployment lines for a long time. What were some of the more important bargaining gains that were accomplished when the strike ended?
Certainly the number one thing that everybody probably has heard is AI and fences around AI in the film and television industry. And so that was really the number one reason why we went on strike. In addition to that, minimum rates, we needed increases across the board in our minimum rates, as well as our residual structure for streaming needed to be changed. So as our contracts have basically reuse terms. So if you're a principal actor in a film and that film gets sold to foreign markets, you get a percentage of those earnings. Is it's we use on television, they used to have whereas reruns, and so if it was a rerun on television, you would get a percentage of that. But as the industry has shifted to streaming, the streaming residual structure, it was not as beefy as it needed to be. And so that was really what we needed. And we did get a good package from that.
I see we're getting.
Just say one thing.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
This is on the AI because sometimes that's a little bit confusing. So here's what was um on the verge of happening and actually was happening sometimes. So they say you had done something, I don't know, a voiceover or something like that, and they could create an AI version of your voice, then they don't have to hire you the next time they're doing that commercial. Same thing with a visual. They create an AI using you, and yet you don't get paid for it, and you also didn't give permission. Or they created AI, you once again using you, using your likeness, using your voice and all of that to make this AI thing, making it say something that you would not have agreed to do. Oh, I agreed for this role. I did not agree for a role that did that. And so now, if they're going to be using AI and creating something out of it, they need your permission and then they need to pay you. So it's all about consent and payment.
And payment. Thank you, Andrew, for bringing that up. That's awesome. Liz, I'm going to throw this one to you. As Secretary of the New England Local, Liz, what do you see as challenges and accomplishments during your tenure?
During my tenure.
Yeah, or anytime.
I definitely believed that some of the wonderful things that we've gained was a community, especially during the strike. We were able to come together, to rally, to meet members that we haven't met yet because we represent all 6 states, right, including Connecticut, and to be able to hear your experiences as union members, some that we have met today, and to also meet future union members to ask us questions. Same thing like tonight, like how to join a union, how can we get the protections that we need, or non-union members sharing their stories of being on set and being treated unfairly, and having that guidance from experienced actors like us. So those are some of the incredible gains that I have seen during my time as secretary.
Liz, do you feel more protected by the final results when issues were resolved after the strike?
Absolutely. That's not even a question. I mean, to have a fantastic nonprofit organization to come in and to speak on my behalf on things that matter, of like having, like fair wages, on having protection against sexual assault, right? Having intimacy coordinators who have their our best interests in mind. Those are so important. And our union meets biannually, and we discuss on things, resolutions in which we further elevate our union members on things that are important, and how to better our team, like health insurance and pension and things of that sort. When are a non-union member, you don't get that. I mean, you don't get a pension. Pensions are almost kind of rare these days, and knowing that I am not only investing in my future, but my union is providing me a pension when I retire.
That's all. Thank you, Liz. That's awesome. Nick, down at your end of the table. By the way, Nick, as I said, is from New York, the New York local. And to me, it's important to see both locals here today in Connecticut. And Nick, I hate to do this, but I'm probably going to throw a question out to you that I know I've talked to Jessica and to Andrea before. And the reason I'm going to ask this question is there's still confusion with some SAG AFTRA and even non-union members right now. And the biggest question pertains to the division in the state of Connecticut. That is where there is a dividing line of SAG AFTRA locals between New Haven South reporting to New York and New Haven North be part of the New England local. And this has created some concerns with some of the Connecticut SAG actors who might be in one area of the local, but they're shooting in the other local's jurisdiction. But we're in Connecticut, supposedly giving SAG actors and any actor work in Connecticut. Can you explain this division, why it is, and is there any way that we can come together a little bit more to make it a little more equal for everyone? I know this is loaded.
Well, I guess I would say so. I am from SAG AFTRA in New York local, but I live in Bridgeport. So I am a Connecticut resident. And I think it just has to do with parts of Connecticut geographically being closer to parts of New York or parts of New England. And honestly, I mean, it's before my time. I don't really see a division in the sense that if I work in Bridgeport, if I work in New York City, if I work in Boston, I mean, as a SAG-AFTRA actor, I can work in any state. So it really doesn't matter what your local is. That's just where you live. That's where you can come together with your other members. But where your local is shouldn't matter as far as working.
Do we have a mic available? There's a question out there.
Nick and everybody else, first off, thank you for coming. I've been a member of SAG AFTRA since 2006. I've actually spoken with Lee and then Sebastian out in LA as well. You mentioned there's really no difference. However, I understand it's not contractually bound, but it is currently pseudo by zip code because there's no actual demarcation line. Where it does run an issue is when you have a production whose production location is in SAG AFTRA New England, for example, but the shooting location is SAG AFTRA New York. And therefore, if it's out of zone or in zone, and you're dealing with an IATSE situation where they're coming in and they're doing out of zone from that, and then all of a sudden it messes up with overtime, travel pay, etc. I would love if sometime, rather than just a gentleman's agreement, because it does change sometimes where people that are in Kent, for example, according to the most recent email that I got from SAG AFTRA New England, that is considered, it's right near the New York border, part of SAG AFTRA New England. Yeah, I knew a lot of people that were going from Kent down to New Amsterdam, and they're paying New York dues. When they are part of SAG AFTRA New England, they could be paying a lower due amount for that. So that's something to think about with those.
If I could just give a little history, and I hate you in the weeds, and I apologize if it is. So the reason why Connecticut is sort of split is because when AFTRA and SAG merged, the AFTRA Boston local had Connecticut, and we had, and we still do have, four stations in the Hartford city that are covered by broadcast contracts. And because of that, we got Hartford, and New York got South. And yes, it's split by zip codes, so it's not actually, you can't say that everything south of Hartford is New York and everything north is New England. It's actually more kind of diagonal. We have every city that's on the Massachusetts border, but a couple on the northeast corner that border New York, and then down the coast, but then it does stop. I know it's super confusing, and if you ever have a question about where is this and which local is it in, you should definitely call. And yeah, we do have to talk between New York and New England on projects that are here, which local is it in, and how is that going to impact travel, whether it's background being transported or people coming up from New York to work, etc. And I wish I had a very easy, simplified answer for you. I don't, but I will say that the more projects that have been happening in Connecticut does make it easier because we are having these conversations more often. And I think, we don't have to kind of like go back to the notes every time there's a project in Connecticut. So I do think it's becoming easier. I do think that people who work here are a little bit more in tune with it. But, I'm happy to answer questions if people have specific projects. Like Jonathan's project, that's a New York project. The Artist, which is filming in Windsor, that's our project. So it just really depends on kind of where the project is based.
And if you want to ask, yes, sir.
Hi, this was pertaining to Andrea's answer pertaining to AI and the usage of voiceover. So we were successful, SAG AFTRA was successful in
negotiating terms of usage of AI in voiceover. But my question is, do you still have certain concerns over certain content creators who use software like artist.io that utilize AI for voiceover? Are you ever worried about like content like that will displace the usage of voice actors in the future?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm worried and concerned about anything that takes work away from us. Yeah, so it's not I didn't mean to put out like, oh, so everything's all fine now. No, it's just that you have to start with the bare basics and get what you can, and then hope that the other stuff doesn't happen. So it's just things like I said, like one of my friends heard a voiceover, sure sounded like him, but it wasn't. But and it was, they had used his material to create something else. And so that they can't do without consent and compensation. I knew there was a two C's. But the getting rid of the actors in order to use AI. So there are some things in the contract, and Jessica will know it better, where they aren't allowed to do that. Like they certainly were trying to do that with background. Like if they had their way, they'd probably use AI, just never use actors. Um, but they put some things into the contract so that they can't do that. But they'll be forever trying because that's just the way of the world. There's going to be people that are going to try to get away with not paying people, and that's basically for anything. I mean, used to be you went to the bank and you talked to a person. Used to be you went to the supermarket and there was a person doing your stuff. And now they want you to do it with the machine and also pay for it. And the machine is kind of spying on you.
I just wanted to add that we are like the strike that just happened was one of our contracts. And currently we are striking for that very reason with video game companies. Because video game companies want to have the ability to record an actor and then put it into a database and build off of that. And they see our performances as data that they can use to create future, they don't call them performances, but characters. So yeah, it's a concern. So just because we got some gains in one contract doesn't mean that we're not concerned about it across the board. But one of the great things about SAG AFTRA and being a union member is that when you get those gains in one contract, that becomes the starting point for the next one. And it becomes easier to say things like, well, why can't you do that when Disney is willing to do that? Or why are they willing to do that for their animation, but now you're saying for video games, it's something else. So these are the things that the union does. The union stands up for us in all of the aspects of our careers. And I wanted to add also, because in talking about how you become a union member, voiceover is one of those ways. Commercials are another way. And so there's myriad routes that some of them involve our appearance, some of them involve our face, and all of these things are constantly kind of being pulled away. And that's why it's nice when it doesn't have to be you who has to go up and fight. And when it comes to voiceover, unfortunately or fortunately, what we're seeing right now is that work that AI is cannibalizing right now tends to be non-union work. So it's the lower paying work that companies can say, oh, okay, well, we're already only paying a few peanuts here, so why don't we outsource that a little bit more? And the union is willing to fight and say, and I believe one of the things that we're fighting for in this contract is saying that a voiceover performance has to be done by a human. So that these are the types of things that we're fighting for and always aware of, and constantly we're looking for members to talk to us about. On the New York board, we're constantly looking for what's happening on the ground. So when I'm in a booth or when I'm on a set, I'm not just performing, I'm also kind of soaking it up and being, what's it really like? What's the day-to-day life like for our members?
Thank you, Nick. We are going to be kicked out of the room shortly because we have other panelists, but Any other? I still need to address and want to address Mr. Woods on IATSE, but I've got Jonathan Black over here who has a question to ask. So, Jonathan,
Yeah,
we got a mic right next to you there.
I'm good. I've got a pretty good voice. I think everybody can hear me. So my question is obviously I know there's a lot of questions about SAG and all that, but to focus in on the technicians and the skilled labor that makes these awesome film and television happen. So to Mr. Woods, there's a lot of people that are trying to come up in the industry. They're working hard on small independent films, and I get millions of calls a week say, I want to get into the industry. I don't know what to do. You know, I've done like 4 independent little movies. What was your advice to a camera op or to a grip or electric or some of the technicians? How can they get into the union, and what can they do to really step up their game, and what you can help them with?
Well, I think it all starts with people working on the smaller films, the student films, things like that. Obviously, having the interest in that, building there, and then looking into the professional crafts that we have. In the basic crafts that we represent is grip, electric, prop, sound, video, and medic, and shot craft, which is basically makes up the bulk of the crew. That's short of hair, makeup, and wardrobe and camera. That's everybody for the most part. So what I would say is continue to pursue any film that would hire you. And in this state and many other states, there's non-union films, which I'm not promoting, but I'm saying there's smaller budgets, and that's where you learn your craft and what you want to do, and focusing on the actual craft. Are you more inclined to do camera? You're more inclined to do grip or electric or prop or whatever it would be. And then at that point, if in fact you had the ability to work on a union film for more than 900 hours in 1 year, you can get into the process of basically you wouldn't have to take a test. I'm sorry, you would have to take a test, but you wouldn't have to take a training. So if you got hours in those crafts for at least the 900 hours, otherwise you could get into a program where you could take courses within those, and then you could sign up, and there's a lottery system to get into the union at this point. So, and as we know, the business is not quite booming as it was, but it's coming around, as we know, and actually New York has the bulk of the work in the country at this point.
Yeah. So, thank you. And as a matter of fact, thank you for segueing into Thomas Woods here. My next question was to you, Tom. Tell the general audience which local covers the state of Connecticut.
Well, within the crafts, I was just saying, Local 52 it covers New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and the very tip of Delaware. So it's pretty good coverage all the way up to basically Boston, to the edge of the Connecticut line. So, and when you work here, there's a 30-mile rule. I'm sure we've all heard of TMZ. That's a 30-mile zone, which encompasses around Columbus, Turbo, and out. And then on the lower budget films, there's a 60-mile zone, which details people's address and if they're distant hire, similar situations to the New England locals versus the SAG locals with their back and forth, non-distant and distant hiring where you live.
For those who don't totally understand or know what IATSE is in terms of the film industry, can you give us a general perspective about some of the things that you do cover? I know you mentioned a little bit about that with Jonathan, but if you can expand on that a little bit.
Most people here have been involved with the IA one way or another. There's 350 locals in the country. Everything from little playhouses, from the Stamford Playhouse to the Westport Playhouse to every place has IA members in the all crafts. The gentleman here with the cameras probably know what I'm talking about here. So IA is represented in all the entertainment industry.
Awesome. Here's a big one that anybody could probably answer, but it's directed to you, Tom, to begin with. What do you think what's the importance of unions? Because, I've had technicians and actors who are non-union say, well, it's tough to get into, I've just got to play it this way, or I'm going to try to do it under the table. Can you give us a real reason why we need these unions?
Well, I think like a lot of people, we all aspire to be adults. We all want to own a home and be part of a community and be an active person in society. And to have that, you need to be able to be a professional. And to do that, you need to have people sometimes represent you to actually, so you can go do the work you have to do and not worry about all the background issues. I'm touching on several things that 12 of my colleagues here had said, but it's a very important thing that we're doing these very expensive operations, and to have to negotiate each and every day deal yourself all day long when someone's trying to get something out of you for free and you're worried about doing your craft correct. It's very important to just go to work and focus on your job and know how you're going to get paid and know how you're going to get treated.
Thank you, Tom. Another question to you. How much work have you or do you see happening in Connecticut coming up now? I mean, because the Alliance is trying to make things work here, but are you seeing some of that happen?
Yeah, I definitely am. Jonathan's been a huge part of that, and I think going forward, he's going to even be a bigger part. And like I've said to him and many people, films create films. When people come here, another producer, another person said, oh, you know what? Why don't we go there? They did it again. They did it again in 2006. That's why I moved to Connecticut. I lived in New Jersey for many years. I did movie after movie after movie in Connecticut. And I finally kept looking around and I said, I think I want to move here. So I did. And that's what I'm saying about building a community. I worked for 10 years in Stanford in a studio doing movie after movie, TV show after TV show. And that's how to create a community. And
Tom's actually right. So a few years ago, Zendaya came to Massachusetts to shoot this very large budget film called The Challengers. And now she's back in Massachusetts shooting this film called The Drama with Robert Pattinson. And it goes back to what Tom is saying, having these producers experience what it's like, the joy that your state offers, that you as Connecticut folks, and them seeing that and experiencing it, and then them saying like, you know what, this is awesome, I want to come back, let's make it a.
Tom, let's throw it over to a little bit about the tax credit expansion that we see that we're trying to create in Connecticut. We've been working, very, very hard with legislators, especially Jonathan, in trying to turn things around. We had a couple of governors ago, I think for one governor ago, that actually stopped narrative film being shot in Connecticut unless, in fact, you have production companies right here in Connecticut who are doing the work. So, the major companies just said, bye-bye, we're just, that's it, we can't come there anymore. Now, with what we're attempting to do and with the work we've been trying to do with the legislature, what are your thoughts about the tax expansion issue that we're trying to create?
well, I think most of all, we have to look at what's happened from the time it's gone away till now. What has happened? We've had a pretty heavy slowdown in work, and companies, as we just said, when companies are here, they come back. And the ones that they just found a new place to go with a tax credit. Tax credit's essential. Look at the work around the country. The only place that has work is with a significant tax credit. Georgia, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and now California's lagging behind still, but they did just pass their credit. But I mean, it's the beginning of all production. They will not even consider it if it's not proper.
If I could just add, you have to have the tax credit to get them here, but you also have to have infrastructure. You have to have the crew. You have to have the talent that keeps that work here. You have to have studios. You have to have production houses, post-production houses. So that incentive is the first nugget, which then grows the rest of the industry. But you have to have all of those layers to get the bigger budget pictures. They're only going to go to a place where they can have a giant studio, with huge ceilings and all this kind of stuff, where they can rent the cameras they need and get the trucks and, the porta potties. So those are all the layers that have to be thought of in this process. It's not just the incentive, but that has to be there or they're just not even think about it.
Right. That's the groundwork that we have to bring here. Yeah. All right. We're going to probably wind this down now, but you can all ask your questions. They have their tables out here. They'll be here for a while, so you can visit them all, SAG and as well as IATSE here, and get some of your questions answered. Please just know that if you're not a member of the Alliance, I might suggest that you become one. It's free right now. You can register at our Alliance table because you will then be invited to more of these kinds of events and educational opportunities that we are going to be expanding and creating throughout the next year and more, but past that. So it's a lot. It's a labor. It's a what's the correct phrase? It's labor of yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's been a long month trying to pull this together. Trust me. So I would like to leave you a labor of love. There you go. Somebody said it. I'd like to leave you with this. I know I stole this from a film. I've said it to a number of people, but it's true. If you build it, they will come. Am I correct? Let's build it. They'll come. We need the foundations here. We need the studios. We need the infrastructure. We need people working together. We need to be a family. Well, yeah, sure, there's competition, but we've got to come together as one unifying group to make this happen. And then finally, I think I stole this from SAG, but we are stronger together. Thank you so much. Monsieur. We hope to see you here again soon. And there are refreshments. There's a bar out there. You can drink. You can go and eat something. And there's so much happening here. Check your programs and enjoy.